The Beacon, celebrating when God uses the unexpected to do the unexplainable.
Hey, well, greetings and welcome to The Beacon, sponsored by Phoenix Christian Preparatory School. My name is Steve Woods. I'm your host. We're thrilled that you've tuned in to this episode, and we're delighted to have just another really great opportunity to get to know somebody here on the program who, you know, we celebrate how God uses the unexpected to do the unexplainable, and all of us, if we reflect a little bit on our story, can say there's twists and turns that maybe we didn't anticipate along the way. And today we get to have an opportunity to talk with Steve Smith from the American Federation for Children. Jeff Blake is also in the studio from Phoenix Christian. Jeff, so thrilled to have Steve. Give us a little background, if you would, on how this came to be.
Well, you bet. And Steve, we're grateful to have you on the program this morning. And again, this was another connection when Phoenix Christian was a sponsor at the Morality in 21st Century Conference at Scottsdale Bible Church, promoting the Beacon, promoting the program, promoting issues of freedom and choice and morality in the 21st century. And through that contact, again, we were encouraged to reach out to Steve Smith. I had the opportunity to reach out to him when he was just on the job for a few days, but we were encouraged to reach out to him again for his role with the American Federation for Children. And so, Steve, I just want you to know, again, we had a chance to talk off air a little bit, how much we celebrate what you do, what you're about. We're inspired, and we are a beneficiary of your leadership in our community, in our legislature, and I just want to welcome you to the show and applaud your presence here this morning.
Well, Steve and Jeff, the pleasure is all mine. God bless you all for the work that you do, and it's an honor to be part of it, so thank you.
Yeah, like I said, we're delighted to have you on the program, and just really excited to get to know you a little bit, also learn a little bit about American Federation for Children, the ways in which God's using that organization to and you and your availability to chart the course for freedom of choice in education. And it's a topic that we circle back to a lot on the program. It's not, again, this is not a program that is about Phoenix Christian. It's a program that's sponsored by Phoenix Christian, but obviously there's a heart for education, and we get a chance to talk to somebody like you. Let's learn a little bit about you personally. Not originally from Phoenix. Give us a little bit of your background, where you grew up, how you ended up here, and a little bit maybe about your family.
You know, yes, I was born and raised just outside of Detroit, Michigan. Went to Michigan State University, graduated there. Then about a year or so after I graduated, moved to Arizona. So the youngest of 6 kids, and so 3 boys, 3 girls in our family. So we were always called the Brady Bunch. And
nice.
So I guess since I was the youngest, that made me Cindy, right? But in any event, moved to Arizona in 2001, and you know, I'm one of those guys that, for me, it was 9/11 that kind of changed my life in terms of, as it did pretty much everybody, but I just felt like God was pulling me in a new direction after 9/11. I didn't know what it was, and so I thought that was military service. I thought that was law enforcement, but for some strange, unbeknownst reason to me, he put me in politics, which I had never certainly been in before. I didn't know nothing about how to run for office, what office to run for, or anything. But a few years later, you know, he put me in the state Senate. I was able to do some you know, help with some significant lifts in legislation there, and that brought us to where we are today. So it's an amazing journey, but we're all on God's journey, and it's just it's been a thrill.
So really, so when you were in college at Michigan State, I mean, was that something in your wildest dreams that you thought I'd be a state senator someday? Is that something that you aspired to do, or was it something that God just totally redirected?
Yeah, total redirection. So I graduated with a marketing and a degree and a minor in business law. Always loved business, always been in business, and moved out to Arizona to pursue business. But again, after 9/11, I just felt like something needed to change. I wasn't sure what it was. And it took me a few years to get there, but God just put on my heart one day, let's have you run for office. And I'm like, well, this is interesting. And to show how out of whack I was, I said, well, let's see. Well, I don't even know what the office to run for. And I said, well, I'm going to pick the state Senate, because nobody was running against the incumbent senator. And I said, well, heck, nobody's running against them. I'm not going to give them a free pass. I'm going to run. Well, if I would have known any better, the reason why nobody ran against them is their family had never lost an election.
Wow.
Their family had collectively held a Senate seat for almost 30 years.
Wow.
And you know, I'm a Republican, and when I ran and won, I ultimately became the first Republican elected in that district in Arizona since statehood in 1912. And so, but it shows how, right? Well, I'll just go do that. But it's like, well, had I had maybe some political science background or any kind of political, knowledge, the safe bet would have said, well, that's probably not the way to go. It's probably not going to end up well. But again, when God's for you, who's against you, right?
Yeah, that's right. Well, yeah, gosh, you talk about something that can't be, explained apart from the hand of God. When you look at that history and that the seed and how it has been for so long, it's amazing to think about how, a rookie, would come in and say, hey, I'm just going to take this uphill charge, not realizing it was uphill. Just like, hey, let's just do this. That's amazing. So let's talk a little bit about personally, how did you meet your wife? You guys have 5 kids now. And how did God bring you together?
Well, when I moved from Michigan I moved to an apartment in Scottsdale. My wife, a couple months later, moved from Colorado and moved the floor above me in the same complex unit. So again, God's hand at work, which is 2 random people from 2 random states brought together at the same time, the same apartment complex, and the rest is history there. So.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice to know that there's a God who's sovereign, who's orchestrating the details of our lives, because it takes a lot of pressure off of us, for sure. Well, let's go back to American Federation for Children. So how long have you been with the organization, and what were the things that led up to being a part of being the director in the state of Arizona?
Yeah, so I've been with American Federation Children, AFC, for about 1.5 years. When my last term in the Senate ended in January of 2019 is when I officially started with them. And I think a lot of it had to do with, my 8 years in the legislature.
Sure.
We helped shepherd and launch some of the best school choice programs and breakthroughs in the country, to which many rankings have Arizona as the top school choice state in the nation. And so just working on a lot of those pieces of legislation, the very first one I worked on was my first year in office, officially in 2011, that helped establish the ESA, the Empowerment Scholarship Account education program that allows people who typically would never be able to go to a great private or have a great online education, whatever they prefer, to have one. And so building off of that and just building up our charter schools and building up just parental choice on where they want to send their children is what we worked on year after year after year. And so when I finished in the Senate and this opportunity was laid before me, again, God's work in play, it was such a natural transition, because these are the very issues we fought tirelessly for. And now we get to do it in another seat, so to speak, here at AFC, because American Federation for Children is considered the national voice for education choice. So to have the reach that we have nationally and to continue our great work in Arizona, it's an honor.
Well, that's incredible. And, Jeff, I look to you because I know that each day, every day in the lives of so many students and families, the work that began, in the Senate under Steve's leadership is having a difference, not just daily, but for the sake of eternity in the lives of so many.
It's pretty amazing. Right now we're in the middle of enrollment season as we anticipate our start on August 20th. And even this last week, a steady trickle of parents coming in to enroll their children. And I got to be honest, one of the observations I'm noting is a large number of single moms. Again, single moms providing for their household, moms that would never have the opportunity to enroll their children in a private Christian school, in an environment where we would set Jesus loose, in an educational environment. And moms walking through, and just the looks on their faces of pride, a smile. They've dressed their student well for the interview, and they're proud to be able to enroll their students in a school like Phoenix Christian. Again, we promote all options of educational freedom, and I have the vantage point of seeing how it's impacting families through our school. But again, I want to applaud the leadership, what they're doing. I'm proud to know that Arizona is a leader. I personally would hope that the state would recognize Phoenix Christian as a leader of really working hard to provide an opportunity for a diverse population of students.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that American Federation for Children prides ourselves on. Our mission statement is to not just empower all families, of course, but especially low income families who, as you said, Jeff, would typically never have this opportunity. When people think private school, they think, oh my gosh, the wealthy folks live in a Paradise Valley and I could never do that. And little do they usually know that there are programs set up through our STO program, through our ESA program, through a myriad of work at the federal government with now these education freedom scholarships that are being proposed in the federal level to help, and our mission, especially low income, because we know as well as everybody, the quickest way out of a bad situation, whether it's poverty that you're growing up in, whether it's a dangerous community you're growing up in, whether it's a single household or this or this or this, the best way out of that is a great education. And for far too often, the education system, I believe, has let so many families down, especially low-income families, who tend to be the majority of those tend to be minorities. And for far too long, they have felt trapped in their school because based on their zip code and where they live, that's the school they're going to. Good, bad, or indifferent, that's where they're quote unquote stuck in many of their minds. But when you give them this life preserver where it doesn't have to be that way, you can take control of your child's destiny. And we know a good education is the best destiny for them. And when you see that happen, it is simply amazing. I'll give you a really quick story in the Senate. I've served on the education committee for a number of years, and we had a young man come up. He drove up from the Navajo Nation, which is probably about a 5.5 hour one-way drive from northern Arizona to Phoenix. And he stood in front of our education committee as we were discussing the ESA program. And he said, I want to let you know, I was going to be one of your statistics. I was, I think, in 9th or 10th grade. I was just about to drop out of high school. Nothing was working for me. My mom told me about this ESA program that she heard from somebody. I got into a great school. I think it was St. Michael's School on the Navajo Nation. And he says, now I'm the first in my family to graduate. I'm going to college. I've got this. And his whole life literally is changed. Literally has changed. And you talk about generational impact. What about his kids and their kids who are going to now follow hopefully in their footsteps? So when you see things like this really come to fruition, it's just amazing.
It is. Your passion is contagious. The difference that it makes, because it's a difference, not just for the lives of those that are being affected, but for the generations that will follow them. It's a trajectory change. It's a life change. And it's an incredible opportunity that could easily have been missed. And so for one, as the program, the Beacon, we want to get the word out. We want people to know that don't know what they're missing, that they can have an opportunity that would exist, possibly here that might not exist elsewhere. And, that's just God's provision in a really special way. So if you're just tuning into the Beacon today, we are really honored and excited to have Steve Smith with the American Federation for Children here on the program. We're learning a lot about the work of the organization. When you come back in this next segment, we're going to talk about why it's so important and the statistics that really bear out that truth. Thanks for tuning into the Beacon.
The Beacon is presented by Phoenix Christian, a school celebrating excellence in education since 1949. Learn more at phoenixchristian.org.
Hey, all right. Well, welcome back to the Beacon today, where we are delighted to have as our guest Steve Smith from the American Federation for Children. We're also honored to be aired on 960 The Patriot every Sunday morning, and then pushed out to a number of podcast platforms such as iHeart, Radio, Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud, etc., wherever you get your podcasts. However you're listening today, we're thrilled that you've tuned in. We hope you'll spread the word that here on the Beacon, we're celebrating ways in which God uses the unexpected to do the unexplainable. And Steve, as we were talking in that last segment about the idea of choice, a choice that so many wouldn't have otherwise, there's still this idea that, some don't even realize that they have a choice. In fact, it's kind of that old verbiage or that adage that if something sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And this is the exception to that, right? This is the opportunity that's there that people might be in disbelief that they could really make a choice for their child or their family to be educated at a place that they think is, from their perspective, elite, unattainable, unreachable. Let's debunk that myth, shall we?
Absolutely. And I'll just take the ESA program to start. ESA program is, again, one of the school choice programs in Arizona that we created about 10 years ago. That program is so simple. It basically says you as a parent can effectively reclaim your tax dollars that you already pay into the system. And now you, what a novel concept, can control your money. And so a lot of people think when they hear these programs, well, how can I even get it? Because I don't have the money. Is this a grant? Is it this? No, it's repurposing your money. So every child in the state of Arizona, all 1.1 million K-12 students, if you think of it, have a big backpack full of money that they get. through state, local, and federal taxes that we pay. And whether they go to this school, that school, that school, that school, that school receives those money. And then the ESA program kind of just turns it on its head and it says, well, wait a minute, why can't the parent get their money back? And so when the parent now says, oh, well, my gosh, so I don't have to go to that school. I could actually pick this great private school that I never thought of, where I could have these amazing tutors come into my home or do this blended learning of online and this and that. I could do all that. You're exactly right. They think it's too good to be true, but it's not. It's reality. And our job at AFC is to help as many people know that program, STO programs, all choice programs exist.
Yeah, that's right. And Jeff, what a game changer.
This is huge. I was looking on their website, 70% of families want to send their children to a private and charter school or virtual school, some form. Yet 82% of the families are attending district-controlled schools, and that most don't have a choice. And this is a country based on choice. And I'm here to tell you too, again, as an educational leader, the free market works. I'm here to tell you that the educators on the team here at this private school and administrators know that. We pursue every family. We're working to be better every day. The system works, and we're blessed and honored to serve the students that families will entrust to us. And you fight for it, and you work hard to build the best system. And that's a win for every family and a win for every school. That's what makes us better.
Amen. And, a lot of people will say, well, how do we fix education? So if my kid's struggling or this, or schools are struggling, you know what the number one answer that always keeps coming back is? More parental involvement. I think almost every principal will tell you, if the parents could get involved a little bit more in their kids' education, my job would be much easier in the school leader or the teacher. And so when you have this thing called school choice, where the parents decide where they want their kid to go, you've already infused parental involvement.
Yeah.
Because now as a parent, if I'm going to actually take time and research what school is the best for my kids' learning needs, or my kids' value system, or my kids' whatever, and I take time and drive and interview you and interview the other schools and say, this is the place I want to be, I'm already invested. And now when my kid goes to that school, I'm going to say, hey, did you get your work done today? Did you talk to so-and-so? Because you're automatically invested because you've taken the time to do it. Far too often when you mention that 82% of families seemingly are stuck in those schools, it's because that's where their zip code told them they have to go. They have no choice. So now if the parents aren't naturally inclined in being involved because they weren't involved from the beginning, they were told where to go, whether you want to go there or not, you almost have less parental involvement from the get-go. And I think, when you infuse school choice into it, the parents can't help but to be involved, and an involved parent absolutely makes better for a better student.
Absolutely. The minute that parent has skin in the game, now we're interested at a level that we weren't before. We were passive, but now we're active. Go ahead, Jeff.
Well, the one thing I just add to it too, an observation I have, we serve a number of autistic students and other students with special needs. And with the ESA funding, there's funding that comes to help offset their tuition. But in addition, there's additional funding that comes with the ESA opportunity for us to hire an independent aide that journeys with the student, with the special needs student throughout the school day. And one of the observations I've noticed here is that parents have a role in helping us select that best aide to best support their student. But parents, when we partner, and in a private school like Phoenix Christian, partners with the local public school district for additional support for our special needs students, the parents are in that meeting. Our members of our administration are in that meeting. The students often sometimes in the meeting, and the aides in the meeting, and there's just a beautiful picture and effective collaboration of all parties for what's best for the student. And we are seeing success.
And that's where this whole notion of a one size fits all, as we probably see in a lot of models of our life, what your doctor might not be the best doctor for me. What your restaurant favorite is might not be the best for me. Where you want to go grocery shopping might not be the best for me. Well, clearly we know that children learn at different paces. We know that they learn in different modes. And when you can customize what your child needs, well, my gosh, how can they not be better for it when you're giving them exactly what they need if you have the choice to do so? So I agree 100%.
Well, and I think what you just said, Steve, is something that we celebrate occasionally on this program. I mean, it's not a program just about education, but it is a program sponsored by a school. So we have a heart for education. And many times we've had the opportunity on this program to have educators from different lanes. And I think that's the message, is that, look, it's not that, Phoenix Christian is the right school for every student, or that every student should be in the public school lane, or every student should be homeschooled. It is that there's a choice there. There's many lanes and many opportunities depending on what is the very best scenario for that student, for that family. And they ought to have the opportunity to choose that. And they ought to have the opportunity to finance that in a way that is meeting their needs the best. And so that student, every student, has the best possible opportunity to excel and to propel themselves into the next level of learning and life, and be equipped to be, citizens that are going to have an impact in our culture, and really on the world. That's what it's about, is that educational freedom of choice. Am I getting it right, guys?
You're nailing it.
Yeah, 100%. And on our end, we're the same way. Yeah, we don't care where the parent wants to go. They want to do homeschool, online, public, private, charter, I don't care. I just want you as the parent making that decision, not a government bureaucrat, not your zip code, not your address. I want the parent making that choice. Whatever they make, we're happy with it.
Well, it's an exciting conversation. It's an important conversation. We come back in the next segment. We're going to find out how maybe some of the winds of change are blowing, as partly a result of the global pandemic and the way things are opening, not opening, that whole every day on the news. Is the school going to open? Is the school not going to open? And what decisions are going to be made by each family as it relates to their students? How am I going to go to work? How am I going to work from home and take care of my kids and teach my kids? All those questions are answered in our next segment, so you don't want to miss it. Come on back to The Beacon.
The Beacon is made possible by Phoenix Christian and listeners like you.
All right, well, welcome back to The Beacon. My name is Steve Woods. I'm your host. My co-host is in the program with us, Jeff Blake from Phoenix Christian Preparatory School. We appreciate PC sponsoring The Beacon. We also have as our honored guest today, Steve Smith from the American Federation for Children. Also, Steve, just want to say thank you for your years serving in the state Senate, elected in 2010, finishing your last term in 2019, and for the work that you did there. We're talking a lot today in the program about education, but I know that there's a vast array of things that you had the opportunity to influence and work on. And so on behalf of those of us in the state who benefit, we want to thank you for your service.
Oh, it was an honor to serve. Thank you.
Well, it was just the last program that we had a current serving state senator, Mark Fincham, and he was talking a little bit about school choice, and he's very much in the camp in the corner. I know you guys serve together, and one of the things that he said was happening kind of caught me off guard, but I think it could be encouraging. Is problems present opportunities, right? Everything in life, when we hit something that we didn't anticipate, we wouldn't choose or wish on anybody else. If we put our head down and give up, we miss maybe some opportunities for improvement or change that might be positive. And one of the things that Senator Fincham talked about was, in light of the questions surrounding our schools going to open, are teachers safe to come back? Should students be in classes? What about class sizes that are 35 in a case where you're supposed to not only meet, in groups of more than 10? How do you handle and navigate all that? And it sounds like maybe parents and even some legislators who were, pretty adamant against school choice are kind of like, well, gosh, if my kid can't go to their school, or if their experience is so compromised, can I get those dollars myself to decide what to do? You think there might be winds of change, and maybe there's going to be a relaxation in some of the restrictions in the program. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, Steve, I sure hope so. But you're 100% right. The landscape out there now is now more than ever. Right. Now more than ever, these families need these options and these choices. And you're right. We hear daily about it. To what you just said, well, what's going on and what's the uncertainty? And I don't want my kid to wear a mask, or I do want them, or I just, we want them to be able to go where they want to go. And right. So we're calling on Governor Ducey. I know that Congress is contemplating another stimulus package right now that will have additional education resources and dollars in there for the states. And we'd like to see those dollars be specifically geared towards families to say, in light of everything that's going on, here you go. If you want to stick it out your school, by all means, stick it out. If there's a different method you want to take, though, in light of everything that's happening, you ought to have the resources to do it. And so we are constantly advocating, not only to our governor, but to the federal government, to please allow those parents to do that in light of what's going on in our country.
The thing that I hear in your message is we want parents to be both comfortable and confident. You know, we want them to be engaged and to have the opportunity to make a directional decision that best meets the needs of their family that they believe in. Because if they believe in it, you know, whether it's the best plan or not, when you believe in something, it's going to be better than having disbelief going into it, right?
I'll give you one more C to add to comfortable and confident. They need to be in control.
Yeah, there it is.
They don't have the resources to do what they think is best and comfortable for their kid. It's slightly irrelevant. So they have to have the resources. They have to be in control of where their kid can go based on the pandemic that's before us. And the more you empower parents, the more you empower students, the better results you're going to have.
Well, while we're piling C's on, one of the ones I like is the creativity that I've seen in some of the neighborhoods and households. You've got some folks who are saying, well, hey, if I can get my dollars back in a pile and we can collaborate together, maybe we bring back, I think they're calling it kind of a micro school, almost a one-room schoolhouse that they can bring in a really qualified, highly, motivated and talented teacher to come in and say, hey, here's a safe space. I'm extremely concerned about COVID or whatever else. And I want to have that control point for the kids in our neighborhood to come together at, house number 3 and meet. And it's a hybrid, I guess, of homeschool, but still, what a great opportunity.
Absolutely. And those are becoming even more popular by the day now. And so, yeah, that idea of the community comes together in whatever size. And you're right. Well, let's bring in the best. Let's bring in the experts and let's partner it with an online program we can buy and let's do this and this. I love it though. The creativity is exactly what they want because I keep hearing time and again, children are our future. If that's truly what we believe, then you truly have to set them up for the best outcomes. If they're the future, which they are, okay, you have to give them the tools to be successful. And you can't, especially now in a time like this, where kids are fearful or this, you've got to make them feel as comfortable as possible to get the education that they need.
Important conversation. You don't want to miss our final segment. Come on back to the Beacon for this last segment.
Phoenix Christian believes strongly in its rich history and bright future, now equipping students from pre-K through 12th grade. Learn how you can help continue its legacy of Christ-centered education at phoenixchristian.org/support. You're listening to The Beacon, presented by Phoenix Christian.
Hey, all right. Welcome back to The Beacon, where we celebrate ways in which God uses the unexpected to do the unexplainable. And quite candidly, this whole program is about that, because I think there are many who would think it is just incredible that there might be a possibility that the tax dollars that go towards education could be put back in the hands of the parents, and they could be given a chance to make decisions on behalf of their student and their family. But that's reality. That's happening. And there are many who thought it wasn't possible. And in part, it's possible due to the efforts of an organization like American Federation for Children and a useful and incredible guy like Steve Smith, who's championing those opportunities. And so if you're just tuning in, you picked a great episode. I encourage you to go back to the beginning of this podcast and check it out. You can find our podcast at various places, including phoenixchristian.org/beacon is a place you can review summaries on previous programs. We don't know who's listening. We never know who's going to be driving around and catching a program. We don't know, but we do invite you to communicate with us. You can write directly to feedback@beaconradioshow.com. Let us know if you think we're all wet, or if there's a topic that you think is cool, or you have a story that can't be told apart from the hand of God, and you think it'd be cool to air that for other people to benefit. So please do let us know what you think of the Beacon. We're honored to be on 960 The Patriot. And Steve, as we begin this fourth and final segment, we talked off air about just the opportunity to say, we've got people who are listening who didn't know this was a possibility, or they've got a student and they're just sick of slugging it out in whatever lane they're currently in. Maybe they're in homeschool and they're like, you know what? I'm not a teacher. I wasn't made to do this. I need another option. And they have some options available to them that maybe they didn't know were available. what can they do? Where can they go? How do they get on board? And then also somebody who's listening who says, man, I want to make a difference. If the legislators are thinking thoughts they haven't thought before, I want to push them over the edge. I want to get this ball move farther up the field. Where do we go? How do we help? How do we get engaged?
Yeah, thank you. Because we get that question almost every day too. And so I think you mentioned it earlier. One of the first and best things you can do is contact the governor, contact your legislator and say, we want more choices for our kids' education. It's a simple battle cry, but it goes a long way into their minds about how do we help change this on the state level that will give parents the more ability to do it. Certainly for our organization's point of view though, so American Federation for Children, you can certainly Google us. Our Arizona chapter, our website is az4children.org. But the easiest way I tell people to get a hold of us is just text us. Text the word KID, K-I-D, to our number 52886. KID to 52886. And we have a team of parent advocates that will call you and will say, well, what are you looking for? Where do you live? Where are you at now? What do you want to do? We're a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization. So anytime people reach out to us for help, we're not going to send you a bill. We have parents that want to legitimately help people free of charge. It's our service, and we can give you the whole landscape of what programs are available to you in the state, what you could take advantage of, what's available, what isn't, some great opportunities in schools or learning, environments, whatever you want. We're just a free resource to help. So again, I would say text the word KID, K-I-D, to 52886, or just look up, American Federation for Children. We'd be happy to help.
Awesome. And Steve, one of the things that we do with every episode is we'll put some hyperlinks in and some instructions that go with the podcast. So hopefully those that maybe didn't catch it on the air, but they listen to the program can have that resource. Just being able to text KID to 52886. I had no idea. I mean, I'm a guy who, I've been around, education for a while, and I'm a fan, and we get people on the program. I had no idea there was a resource at that level. It's like a hotline. Like I can literally send a text and talk to somebody who's an advocate who's got nothing to gain other than to promote the success of my kids in education. That's phenomenal. Thank you for that resource. And I have to ask another question. So, maybe as I get older, I become a little more cynical. Maybe people are cynical earlier in life. I don't know. But I think sometimes write a letter to the governor, like the governor is going to see my letter, give me a break, or write my congressman. I mean, come on, is it going to make a difference? Okay, so you were in the Senate. What happens? Did you get those emails? Do you see that? Do you see that information? Does it stand out because most people think like I do and they don't do it? So then when your voice is heard, help us know if it matters. Or do they tally them for and against in certain categories? What happens?
Absolutely. It does. And every office is different. I know my office, I check my own email, which sounds like, well, congratulations, good job. But you'd be surprised how many don't.
Right. I wouldn't be surprised. That's my point.
That's right. But for those that don't, their office or their assistant will say, hey, Senator X or Representative Y, I just want to let you know, we have 128 people who wrote in today that are in favor of this bill or against this bill or asking this or don't wanting this. And it absolutely does. And any time, my policy was simple. Anybody who calls my office and wants a meeting, an in-person meeting, phone call, whatever, tell them when and where, and we'll do it. I mean, my job was to serve the people of my district. So I think people would be surprised just how available their local representation is. And when you send an email or you call and say, hey, could you call me back? I truly want to talk about this. I've had hours worth of conversations with constituents about every topic you can think of, but I listen to them. And then when session is in session, they come to committee. So there's so much you can do, but a very simple thing that you can do. Yes. If you send an email, if you just Google the Arizona Legislature and just call their office, the word absolutely gets to them. And the more people that say that word, the more it's going to sit in their brain. Well, now I've really got to do something about this.
Well, that's a takeaway for me, and I hope it is for our listeners as well from this program, is just, the time when you think about it, do more. Don't just think about it. I mean, it takes an instant to Google that information. It takes a moment to click on the hyperlink for their email address and just say, hey, for what it's worth, this is what I think. And I want you to know. So that's great. That's great counsel. And again, we're going to state it again, az4children.org, or simply text KID, the word KID, to 52886. 886 and immediately take advantage of this resource and this organization that's doing great work on behalf of families and students in Arizona. And, you know, Jeff, as we start to kind of bring the whole thing into focus, I think it's really cool that right within the Beacon family here in our program, we have a producer that helps us whose own story, you know, is one that reflects on the work that Steve and others like him have done. And I want to have give you an opportunity to introduce Miriam and give her an opportunity to talk a little bit about her experience and how it's shaping the trajectory of her life.
I appreciate that. And Steve, and for both Steves, this is an opportunity. You know, as Christians, we believe in the biblical principle of stewardship. And as you have fought for policy, and American Federation for Children fights for policy and change, we want to be stewards living in the wake of the work that you have done. And so this morning, what we want to present as a gift, as an expression of gratitude to you, is some tangible stories of life change. Boots on the ground, you've done the hard work. We get the benefit of picking up that baton and running with it in a real life situation. And in that spirit, it is my joy and pleasure to introduce this morning Miriam Murray, who serves as our producer, one of our producers on the Beacon. And Miriam, I'd like you to begin by introducing yourself. Tell us a little bit about how your family came to have the opportunity, or how you arrived at an opportunity to attend a private Christian school, and a little bit about that process in your family and how you ended up here.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Phoenix Christian has definitely been a huge part of my growth. My family was just kind of researching things like Christian schools that I can be in, and then we were able to come to Phoenix Christian through organizations like American Federation for Children, and be able to be a part of something that we probably wouldn't have been able to without organizations like that. I think it's just crazy to think that without these kind of organizations, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be able to experience that kind of growth and that personal encouragement from Phoenix Christian. Yeah.
You bet. And so Miriam, I know that programs like the state tuition tax credit program were enormously influential to enable you to be at Phoenix Christian. And in light of that, and again, to encourage Steve and his leadership, share a little bit about the life change, how you've grown, how you're different with the opportunity to attend a private Christian school versus the local public school. And again, nothing against the public school. It was your parents' choice. Talk about life change for you the last 5 years.
Yeah. Well, it has definitely helped me grow as a person. I used to kind of be an introvert, kind of just in my shell, kind of just to myself. But being here definitely has grown me as a person, helped me to be a servant, and even just a leader in my community, around my friends. Definitely has grown in my faith. My faith has grown exponentially being here, being able to learn more about God in my education, and just being able to just put showing me how to work and my work ethic, and just being a leader for Christ.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And Miriam, you've explored opportunities of working with nonprofits. Obviously, you're currently employed by a nonprofit, and you're exploring your passion in photography right now.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that. What are your plans?
Well, my plans are to kind of just start doing like portrait photography and all that stuff, and getting my business and exploring that, and exploring what that looks like for right now. Just kind of just putting things into play.
Okay, so if someone's interested in you being a photographer for them, how would they get in touch with you?
They can go search on Instagram at Yadria Creations. That would be spelled Yadria, and then Creations. Just search at my handle and just DM me.
Well, gentlemen, I think we might have a future entrepreneur. We have an entrepreneur on our hands right now in Miriam. We're so blessed by you. And Steve, I want you to be encouraged. This is a life that's been changed. And Miriam, your sister here is still in school. You're a graduate, but your sister Lydia is still here too, and life change continues.
Yeah. Sure.
So Steve, we want you to be encouraged from the work that you've done. This is an illustration of it.
Well, my gosh, it brings a smile to my face. And so when I mentioned earlier about the Navajo family, they came up and shared their story. Every time we hear a story, it just reinforces that what we're doing is the right thing. It warms my heart to know that there's people like you out there, and schools like yours, and students like Miriam, and it's the American dream. You can get everything you wanted. You just need, with God's help, again, all things are possible. So whether opening up those doors to photography or to the school or just whatever it is, it's an honor to be part of it. So Miriam, congratulations. That's awesome. I had a friend of mine who was an aspiring photographer who asked, he wanted to get political. And he said, can I just follow you around to some events? This is a few years ago, and just try to start shooting and meeting people.
2 minutes.
Long story short, 3 years later, he was now the photo editor in the White House.
That's amazing.
And he came in from, just a guy who wanted to pick up this hobby and this habit. And I had him shoot our stuff, the governor's stuff, and this stuff, and that stuff, and blah, blah, blah. Before you know it, he's currently in the White House today as the photo editor for the Vice President of the United States. So everything is possible. And with your great education and your work ethic, I'm confident you're going to do anything you want to do.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Well, Miriam, I want to thank you too. We are blessed and grateful for your involvement in the program. I'm thankful for your friendship and really excited about your future. I know Arizona Christian University is excited to have you as a part of their organization as well. And you're just going to do great things, and we're going to celebrate along the way. Steve, I want to thank you again for being on the program, for making yourself available, and especially for the work that you do tirelessly and that of the organization. Jeff, give us a wrap up and maybe 30 seconds on what's happening at Phoenix Christian.
You bet. We're grateful. Thanks for the investment in what you do. I want the listener to know that we've creatively planned for COVID. Class size is 10 on average. If you'd like to learn more, visit phoenixchristian.org.
Well, thanks for tuning into The Beacon. We'll catch you next time.